and welcome to the Riyal Deal, coming to you from the Al Arabiya English studios. This is your weekly bulletin, bringing you all the latest business news, headlines and analysis from Saudi Arabia. Coming up, VistaJet is given clearance to operate domestic routes in Saudi Arabia, making it the first foreign private jet operator to be allowed to do so. We'll be speaking to the VistaJet CEO in just a moment. With tourist numbers rising across the kingdom, we're going to take you to the historic oasis of AlUla, where ancient heritage and outdoor adventure are a big hit with visitors. We ask what's on offer in the upcoming tourist season. Plus, we take you to the region of Assir in southern Saudi Arabia, where a mountainous setting and cooler weather have been the perfect backdrop for a Wild West cowboy-themed town, and that's been drawing tourists from far and wide. Hello and welcome. We begin with the latest moves to liberalize the skies above Saudi Arabia. Back in May, it was announced that barriers had been lifted, which prevented international charter operators from offering domestic services. Well, this in a bid to boost competitiveness and attract global investment, as well as expand the private aviation segment, all very much in line with Vision 2030. Well, it's been announced that the private jet operator VistaJet is set to be allowed to fly domestic routes in Saudi Arabia, making it the first foreign private jet operator to be allowed to do so. Well, we are delighted to be joined now by Thomas Flohr, who is the founder and chairman of VistaJet. He joins us from Milan. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Mr. Flohr. Very exciting news for VistaJet. What does this mean for your company?
Well, how are you? Great to see you. We're extremely excited to serve our new and the existing clients. And like you said, it's exactly in line with the vision of the leadership of the country. Obviously, with our global fleet, we have the infrastructure, we have the operations in place to immediately start serving. We actually already had our first flights in the country. And, on the back of the first half of 2025, we saw a 32% increase in our program members in the kingdom year over year. And that's kind of like highlighting the drive and demand for both domestic and the global flying that is coming from the country.
And when you say your program in Saudi Arabia, what does that mean? People who've bought into a sort of a subscription, a membership, how does it work?
That's exactly right. So typically, we're making it very, very simple for our clients. Rather than having to buy an airplane or a fraction of an airplane, they just buy the hours they need. It's a 3-year subscription, and they buy as many hours on whichever airplane serves them best, and they can use them anywhere in the world, whether it's being in the kingdom or in America or in Asia or in Europe. It's a global, simple membership. Very short contract, and it allows having access to our fleet of approximately 250 aircraft, no matter where and within shortest notice.
So what does your arrival in the Saudi domestic market mean for Saudi Arabia?
Well, it really brings the quality of operation that Vista has established since now more than 20 years on every continent around the world. And we can now offer exactly the same operational and service quality that we do anywhere else in the world. And so, as I mentioned earlier, it is our international clients that can now continue to use Vista within the country. And it's, of course, our very loyal and long-term Saudi client base that we have that can now use us within the country. And obviously, we're very excited to welcome a whole lot of new clients, being it large corporations or ultra-high net worth individuals, family offices that can join the Vista program.
I imagine you're pretty streamlined, but nevertheless, you're going to have some sort of a presence on the ground, I'm assuming. I mean, will you be hiring during the course of the next few months?
Of course, we in anticipation, we have been hiring. Our leader from a Salesforce point of view is actually Saudi since many years, so we have an advantage right there. And we're an attractive place to work for. So we'll continue to add to our Salesforce, continue to add to our operational infrastructure as the demand will be growing for our local operations.
Let's talk a bit about your future Saudi operation. I mean, what do you expect are going to be the main routes?
Well, I think it's definitely between the main cities in Saudi, but also, there are some smaller airfields and smaller areas where, either investors or business people need to get to very, very efficiently, maybe only stay for 24 hours and fly straight back to Riyadh or Jeddah. It's exactly that what we're serving within the country, making it so much more palatable and easy to use private jets within the country, and most importantly, in a very efficient way.
Tell us a bit about what it's been like getting set up in Saudi Arabia. What have been your main sort of takeaways?
Well, it has been an incredibly pleasant experience to work with the Gaga and the leadership in this process. It's a normal process that we have to go through. There is a lot of diligence. There is a lot of detailed understanding exactly how we operate, and that has been done in an extremely transparent way. And obviously, we're extremely pleased to have been awarded the license to fly within the country and now serve the country with our fleet, the famous silver with a red stripe fleet, and its impeccable service standards that we offer already everywhere else in the world.
Yeah, and the very first foreign private jet operator to be given that award, that privilege. I want to ask you, I mean, you've touched upon this a little bit already, but who do you see as being the typical VistaJet client? I mean, do you think the profile of the typical VistaJet client in Saudi Arabia will be any different from anywhere else in the world?
Not really. I mean, we have 15 years of experience flying into Saudi from an international aspect, and we have a very significant customer base of Saudi companies and Saudi family offices or ultra high net worth individuals that have chosen the Vista subscription over buying an airplane. And I think it's on the back of that 15 years experience that also impressed the authorities that we already have, and that we're now expanding into these local flying opportunities. So I expect very much the same type of client between corporations that don't need to put an aircraft on a balance sheet. Think about it. When you buy one airplane, it's very often, I always say, it's difficult to decide which one you fly, and you buy let's say a mid-range airplane. It takes you nonstop to Europe, but if you need to go to Asia or to America, you can't do it nonstop. You need to stop somewhere. But then again, if you buy an ultra long range, let's say Global 7500, our leading product, you get nonstop to America or to Tokyo, but do you really need to fly from Riyadh to Jeddah on a 7500? The answer is no. And that's exactly the Vista advantage, where you choose the airplane right for your trip. And, Challenger 350 is perfectly fine for a shorter hop, and the ultra long range can be covered. So if you subscribe to our Vista program, you dedicate for a specific flight the airplane which is best for you. And that's incredibly efficient. And also from a cost point of view, much less expensive than owning a full aircraft. And you have the subscription 365 days a year. We all know aircraft are not available 365 days a year. Maybe they're available 310 days. And those are the efficiency drivers I think the kingdom is looking for. And we're bringing exactly that efficiency to the country.
Right, so you're basically saying companies have got the choice of not just having one plane, but having a whole fleet of planes for short haul, medium haul, long haul flights, or having a subscription with an operator like you. So I think you've done a good sell on that one. What are the main reasons people give you for flying private?
Well, look, I mean, it is certainly the efficiency, the time efficiency of whether it is, a business leader, whether it is, maybe it's a country leadership, it is executives, ambassadors, what have you. It is really that efficiency to get point to point in the shortest way possible, avoiding big airports, avoiding big queues, avoiding to change aircraft, or if you're flying in a more remote location. If you look at the privacy element of it, when you fly Vista, you're flying, yes, on a silver aircraft with a red stripe, but if you own an airplane, then it's a registered tail, and today that's very visible. Who is flying from where to where on the global radar side. So privacy is a big driver for our business. Efficiency is time. Gaining time is a big driver for flying private, because business leaders, political leaders, they have one thing all in common, and this is they're short of time because they need to spend that extra time either with their employees or driving opportunities forward or exploring maybe new investment opportunities somewhere on the globe. And at the end, let's also not forget, we all have families and families to spend time with. And that is really where business jets are driving that efficiency of time savings into people's schedules and on a point-to-point basis into the remotest locations.
Okay, so really it's efficiency, it's time saving and privacy that sort of seem to be the key drivers there. When it comes to this market, and just sort of more broadly talking about the region, the Middle East, any numbers to share with us, any trends you've identified, any changes you're seeing in the private jet market here?
Well, the Middle East is booming, and we see significant growth. So the market share the Middle East is taking over the global market share sees a significant uptick in demand. Obviously, our global 7,500 fleet that we have, 18 of those aircraft, is very much suited extremely well for the Middle East because basically this aircraft can take you nonstop to pretty much any point on the planet. And where the Middle East is geographically, that's very, very helpful. So we see business leaders from any region coming into any continent coming into the Middle East and flying back, very often on very short trips. They're always stressed for time. And that's where the flying offices, we call it, with the highest speed internet available, et cetera, allows them to be so efficient, conduct their business, and come back rested, given the sleep experience, the low cabin pressure that we have in our aircraft, et cetera, and the service where they can be most efficient with their business conduct.
Any possible IPO or possible Saudi investment, for example, into VistaJet?
Well, look, we're a private company, as you know. I still own the company about 85%. We've just recently done capital market transactions earlier this year between equity and some amazing debt financing of about 1.3 billion. So at this point in time, we're very happy with the capital structure that we have. So right now, no plans.
Okay, and just lastly, one person described private jets as Ubers for billionaires. What do you say to that?
I don't think so. I don't think this is a measurement of wealth. Is it more expensive than flying commercial? In most cases, yes. But if you take 10 business leaders from Saudi to New York, it might be equal or even less expensive if they fly first class versus on a Vista airplane. I think, again, I come back to, corporations have to be efficient. They have to be efficient with the time of their leaders, and they take very prudent business decisions. And that's really where the private jet market fits into. There are more than 25,000 corporate jets in the world. And for that very purpose of creating corporate and family offices and government's efficiencies, and that's exactly where we're serving. And as you know, we have the largest global infrastructure on every single continent, and we feel it's still the beginning. There's so much more of market share to take with our business model, and we're obviously super excited that we're working in such close collaboration with Saudi Arabia to now bring these services to this wonderful country.
Okay, well, many congratulations again for being the first private jet operator to be allowed to fly point-to-point domestically within Saudi Arabia. Thank you very much indeed for your time. Thomas Flohr, the founder and chairman of VistaJet. Thank you for your time, sir. Well, I'm here with Ali Raza, the Chief Investment Officer of Haytham Company. Ali, this announcement that's been made, VistaJet to be allowed to fly within Saudi Arabia on domestic routes, first private jet operator to be allowed to do that. Why is that significant, do you think?
Well, Tom, I mean, it's very exciting news for VistaJet, I'm sure, and also the counterparts in Saudi Arabia. But this is much further beyond. This goes much further beyond than simply a slight regulatory change or one private jet operator coming into the region. See, what does the private jet industry mean for a region, right? At the moment, around 3/4 of the private jets owned by Saudis are actually sitting overseas, right? And if you think about, I mean, I don't know if you've ever owned a jet, Tom, but if you are familiar with the cost of maintaining a jet, you know, it can be several $1,000,000 a year for a Gulfstream or a Global that our guest was just speaking about. Now, this economic output or input is sitting external to Saudi Arabia as it stands, and part of the aviation and civil authorities aviation strategy, you know, one of the goals is to bring up to 90% of that ownership back into Saudi Arabia. So if we just extrapolate that and we think about, you know, without getting into all of the finer studies and numbers, I mean, currently 3/4 of that output or economic development is sitting outside, and they want to bring it to turn that into 90% internally. There is a MRO industry to build around that. There is a range of services and solutions to build around that kind of industry. And this is really the Saudi way. Build a spine for the industry, and then wrap the value chain around it. And we've talked about many different sectors, Toms, and we've seen this from, you know, in sports to AI to energy. I mean, this is really, you could, if you look closely enough, you can see this is a pattern and a very effective one at that. And that's the significance of VistaJet here. It's an opportunity for the market to develop. It's VistaJet today. Who will it be tomorrow? And you know, when that market starts to develop, now VistaJet, to the best of my knowledge, owns a lot of its aircraft, but there are many private jet operators out there which will operate and manage the aircraft that are standing idle, that are owned by people. Now, if you connect the dots there, you know, we bring 90% of the jets back home, and you start to see more of the service providers actually operate out of Kingdom, and we begin seeing the industries develop around that in Kingdom. You know, the possibilities are endless. This is really, I mean, this is a case of sovereignty in the skies, moving away from, you know, all of the consumer-like behaviors that we see.
Yeah, as I said in the introduction, I mean, one of the goals here is to make the market more competitive. I'm also just wondering to myself, whilst talking to you, what sort of a market size are we talking about here? Because in population terms, I mean, Saudi Arabia is one of the larger countries in the region, isn't it?
Of course, I mean, it's one of the larger countries, but we have to remember that, you know, when we're talking aviation, we're speaking really about a global audience, right? And the Aviation and Civil Authority has, within its aviation strategy, ambitions to grow the number of passengers handled by almost twofold, so up to 330 million by 2030. Now, aviation is going to be serving tourism, business, enterprise. We have a significantly sizable pool of international executives and talent coming through the region. I mean, it's the perfect conditions for mass development of an industry. Now, I mean, in terms of competition, so, you know, VistaJet is the first operator privately to be operating in region under these regulations, but I imagine there is much more to come. Now, if we take into consideration, I mean, as I mentioned earlier, there's 3/4 of the jets sitting outside. There is a rapidly growing base of local wealth holders and business operators, and of course, you know, public ministerial travel. But then you have the world that's now attending events, that's attending business events. The FII conference is coming up next month, which year on year has seen, you know, the world's leaders pass through. You have the FIFA World Cup up ahead. You have the many sporting events coming through the next couple of years. Riyadh Expo in 2030. I mean, the market is quite sizable, and I think that, you know, what we're seeing here with VistaJet is simply the first block of an enormous white space.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for that, Ali. We'll be back with you very shortly. Let's take a quick look at some of the other stories we're following for you from the week. The Saudi utility giant Aqua Power has announced that commercial operations have begun at 3 solar power plants in Saudi Arabia. The company says these plants together have a combined capacity of 2.79 gigawatts. Well, this aligns neatly with the kingdom's goal of generating clean energy primarily through solar power. Riyadh Air, which takes to the skies later on this year, is offering further glimpses of the sort of Saudi hospitality that passengers can expect. The airline has signed partnership agreements with Milaf Global Food Company and the Saudi Coffee Company, meaning that premium coffee and dates will be offered in flight. While further showcasing the kingdom's heritage, Milaf Cola, which is made from dates, will also be served on flights. And in the context of record visitor numbers to the kingdom, the third edition of the Hotel Supply and Hospitality Expo has just wrapped up in Jeddah. That three-day event featured 250 exhibitors representing brands from 35 countries across the hotel and hospitality industry. In other news, Lenovo Group has announced that it's going to be setting up its regional headquarters in Saudi Arabia. This as the Chinese PC maker seeks to boost its presence in the Middle East. Well, that announcement forms part of Lenovo's strategic collaboration with the PIF-owned company Alat. Well, Lenovo says the move highlights its long-term commitment to supporting Vision 2030 and playing a part in advancing the kingdom's digital transformation and economic diversification agenda. Well, let's get more on that with Ali, the Chief Investment Officer of Haytham Company, who's still standing by for us. Ali, thanks for standing by. Just wondered what you read into this announcement by Lenovo.
Well, Tom, earlier this year, the Lenovo factory was broken ground on back in February around the time of the LEAP conference. And see, building a factory in region is the signal that there is a real interest to build a sizable presence in the region. But establishing your regional headquarters in a new region, that is signaling intent of something much greater. That means that they are here in a serious way. Now, that's great for Lenovo and great for Lenovo's partners in region and the market potential that they can capture. But this has much broader implications. I mean, we've spoken on many occasions about various sectors, and the question that very consistently tends to pop up is around the availability of talent and knowledge and innovation and capability. And when organizations like this start to signal that this is a region that we believe in so seriously that we will not only establish a factory, put thousands of people on the ground, train Saudi nationals, but also bring the world's best executives and talent into region to mentor them and to collaborate with the national entities, with the private sector, and be here in a meaningful way for what seems like an indefinite period. You can imagine, this is an enormous signal, not only to the region, but to the world. If we take this back to, let's look at some parallels, right? The likes of South Korea, nearly half of their GDP stems from the ICT and industrial sectors, and the household names we've come to know, Hyundai, Samsung, LG. Draw the parallels. If you were to establish a market which spawns sectors like this within the space of a few short years, that's quite something. And it's quite something not just for the region, but a major signal to the world.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for that, Ali. We'll be back with you again very shortly. Now, AlUla is a historic oasis city about 1,000 kilometers northwest of Riyadh. Well, the city is important for various reasons: archaeology, heritage, and increasingly tourism. Well, one of the modern aspects of AlUla is the Maraya Concert Hall, which is the largest mirrored building in the whole world. With the edge now coming off the heat of summer, tourists are making a return to AlUla in the months ahead. So what can visitors expect? What's being done to attract more visitors? And what will be some of the highlights of the upcoming tourist season? Well, to help us answer those questions, we can cross to Riyadh and speak to Melanie de Souza, who is the Executive Director, Destination Marketing at AlUla. Thank you very much indeed for joining us, Melanie. When does the tourist season really take off there in AlUla?
Well, Tom, we're really about building a year-round destination. You're absolutely right in saying that the peak season is rapidly approaching, but we've had great success in flattening our seasonality. And, the destination itself is premised on heritage of global significance, as you've rightly called it. But against these stunning landscapes, we have so much play out, from adventure to wellness, to anything that is any experience that could be done in the outdoors. And what we've curated now is a fabulous calendar of events under the banner of AlUla Moments with 5 festivals. So commencing straight off in September, we have Azimuth, which will be an outdoor concert in Thanaya, a beautiful venue, up to 2,000 people, and a fabulous lineup of artists curated by Middle Beast. Then we go into festival season with, first off, Wellness, which this year will have a increasing fitness and agenda for people seeking, everything from marathons to cycling and swimming. Followed very quickly by Ancient Kingdoms, which is very much about our heritage taking center stage. But heritage sites that you can experience with a real difference, like Hegra After Dark, which this year won the Middle East Event Award for Best Arts and Cultural Event. Then we go into Winter at Tantora, which of course was our very first event when we opened our doors roughly 6 years ago. And of course, followed very much then by Arts, where we have a very bold ambition, subject to confirmation still, but we're expecting the resumption of Desert X in partnership with Coachella. And of course, that is a forerunner to Wadi Al Fan, which is still a few years away, but which is our bold ambition for art in the landscape.
Okay, so lots of things in the calendar by the sounds of things. I mean, you've hinted at this as a slightly seasonal destination, depending on people's tolerance thresholds, perhaps, for the heat. But I mean, is there a best time to visit AlUla?
Well, we talk about October to May being very much a lovely part of the year. But I'll give you an example. A couple of weekends ago, mid-August, we ran Desert Blaze. And not for the faint-hearted, I must admit, but 500 runners out enduring the heat and coming in with record times. So I think with Ramadan as well, increasingly encroaching into what would be peak period, our job is how do we curate itineraries and put on events that are going to be targeted to specific audiences in specific countries. And remembering that the early mornings and the late evenings can be curated for outdoor, whereas during the midday heat, it's about indoor experiences.
Okay, so during the really hot months of the year, I mean, is it a struggle for businesses to stay afloat? Or do you see, I'm assuming you see an appreciable downturn, do you, in the sorts of numbers coming through?
We definitely have a trend line that indicates that we have work to do to flatten seasonality, but let me give you some numbers. Year to date from January to July, which includes quite a few of those hot months, a 7% increase in airline passengers, a 17% increase in occupied room nights. And if I compare Ramadan, typically an off-season period, this year and last, an 86% growth in room nights, because we've really worked with our tourism ecosystem to put on a value-based offering and to really have programming that is appropriate for that special time of the year.
Okay, so it sounds like a really positive evolution overall in terms of sort of the trajectory of visitor numbers for AlUla.
Absolutely. I mean, we have the ambition to hit the 1 million magic target by 2030, but really at our heart is building out a destination that is being curated very sensitively with sustainability core to its ethos. And this is only ever about experiences that are going to be personalized and curated. We're never looking at expanding our target slots at our heritage sites any more than what we think is appropriate. So this is a counter proposition, if you like, to some of the mass tourism destinations that are on offer worldwide.
Okay, I mean, in terms of infrastructure there in AlUla, while you were talking earlier, we were looking at some of the beautiful scenes of AlUla, that famous pool that's built into the existing terrain of the natural terrain of AlUla. I mean, clearly there's a lot on offer at the high end of the market, but is there accommodation, would you say, for every budget?
Well, if I look at our hotel stock, even outside accredited room inventory, there's so much accommodation bookable through the likes of Gathering and Airbnb. Beautiful farmhouses, for example, that are making the designer pages of magazines around the world. So yes, there is. There is accommodation at various price points. And, for us, the luxury is about the way we're going about the experience delivery. We want our very proud locals in the AlUla community of ours to be at the forefront of every experience. We believe that apart from the built environment, what is really the takeout and the standard takeout for Saudi and indeed AlUla as a relatively new destination is the warmth and hospitality of the locals. And this is something that we hear repeatedly in terms of customer feedback. But if I think about what we're building, both in the space of arts, the arts and cultural agenda, but also more broadly in terms of, the hotel environment and the approach to infrastructure in the context of airport capacity, we're certainly looking to be able to grow in line with our targets, which are moderate.
Okay, and just lastly, I mean, we are a business program here on Al Arabiya English. Any numbers you can share with us in terms of what this increase in tourists, what the total number of tourists represent in terms of revenue for AlUla?
Well, we had 286,000 tourists last year. We've got a target of 310,000 this year, average lengths of stay of over 3.5 days, and a pretty good average spend. And for us, this is, as you rightly say, it's about revenue and expenditure, but we're never going to be chasing mass millions in terms of numbers. It is very much about a tourism experience and a destination that is premised on responsible tourism and sustainability at its core.
Okay, well, we really appreciate you taking the time to speak to us. You're really making me want to visit AlUla. Melanie de Souza, the Executive Director, Destination Marketing at AlUla. Thank you very much for your time. Well, I'm still here with Ali Raza, the Chief Investment Officer of Haytham Company. Ali, I don't know, have you been to AlUla?
I've not had the opportunity to visit AlUla, Tom, unfortunately, but I hope to do so very soon.
Yeah, it looks amazing. I haven't been either, but looking at those pictures, I think I'm going to be changing that very soon. I mean, just lastly, really, to wrap up the segment on AlUla, I mean, it's just one of many, isn't it? Tourist destinations, tourism projects, and all of that ties in very neatly with Vision 2030. Just remind us how it does that.
So, look, I have to describe AlUla as a truly unique site. Every one of the projects that's under development is unique in its own right, but AlUla, little known facts, is nearly 200,000 years old. There is evidence of tool making, for example, in the AlUla sites, particularly the Hadra site, where archaeological evidence shows tools up to 200,000 years old. So it's a bridge between humanity's past and humanity's future. Now, to give you context around that, it's believed that nearly 97% of all recorded human history, so 97% of all documented human history, actually took place in the last 5,000 years. So we're talking about a site that has history up to 200,000 years old. And the way it's being developed, there's 5 sort of regions really staging you through a journey to explore each one of those phases. So it's quite fascinating from that perspective. I mean, there's a lot of very interesting activations happening. There's been a number of musical events and shows and concerts, and there's a huge pipeline of hospitality projects underway. I mean, this is really a 15-year development that's going to take place. So naturally, it will bring a lot of commerce and opportunity within the tourism industry. But I think, aside from all of that, it really is a very fascinating place, and how amazing to be able to really be the bridge between that past and future and offer an experience whilst building an entire industry and sector around it.
Okay, thank you very much indeed for that, Ali. We'll be back with you in just a moment. And finally, the Assir region in southern Saudi Arabia is in parts around 2,000 meters above sea level, making it ideal in the hot summer months because it has cooler temperatures. Well, an annual summer festival, the Assir season, has just wrapped up there. And one of the more unexpected attractions this year was a Wild West cowboy-themed town. Well, complete with all the right clothing, as you can see there, some cowboy hats, boots and fringed jackets. The event was a big hit, with plenty of activities drawing people from far and wide. And organisers say it exemplifies the kingdom's push to diversify tourist offerings.
I will be honest with you. We are Arabs and the sons of this country. We are proud Saudis who cherish our identity, our Arab roots, our culture, and even our Bedouin heritage. We don't deny this identity. It runs in our blood. But the purpose of creating this theme was to showcase Saudi tourism to the furthest reach possible.
OK, well, it's something we don't often see there, people wearing cowboy outfits in Saudi Arabia. Ali Raza, the Chief Investment Officer of Haytham Company, is still standing by for us. Ali, I mean, that's a different kind of tourist offering, as we just heard there. And we've talked about this quite a bit before, haven't we, how Saudi Arabia is welcoming record numbers of tourists. I think there are 116 million domestic and international visitors in 2024, up around 6% on the previous year. I mean, let's not underestimate this. I mean, tourism is a key revenue stream for Saudi Arabia now. And it seems there are, there's an ever-growing number of different offerings as well.
Of course, I mean, we have spoken about this on a number of occasions in different capacities, but tourism is an interesting sector, right? I mean, in itself, it is an enormous economic driver because it, of course, brings people into certain landmark sites and regions of the nation or any host nation. But most importantly, it really funnels attention into SMEs, the backbone of any developing nation. It brings cultures together. It brings social cohesion. There are so many flow-on effects, and Saudi Arabia has been very, very clear on the appetite to open up to the world and to attract the world and to bring novel and new experiences to light. And I think this is yet another example of that.
OK, well, thank you very much indeed for that. Ali Raza, Chief Investment Officer at Haytham Company. Really appreciate your inputs, as ever. That's all we have time for. Thank you very much indeed for watching The Riyal Deal here on Al Arabiya English. Look forward to seeing you again next week. Meanwhile, stay tuned if you can.